Lara Yeretsian joining us. Listening to that cross-examination of Jimmy Martin, the state star witness, we've already discussed. It's got a lot of contradictions in it, right? You think this is very harmful to the state from what I gather, what you said earlier. Is that still true?
It's still true. It is harmful. When a star witness who's involved in this murder gives you different versions of what has happened, then there is a problem. I mean, he either went in with Billy Turner or he didn't. And when they talked to him initially, that was 4 years ago, and that was closer in time to the incident. And now he's saying that what I said then is not true. This is what the truth is. You know, there's a problem. Usually people who are lying are the ones who can't keep the story straight. And that's exactly what you have here. If he was telling the truth, his story would not change. And officers, detectives use that technique when they're, for example, interviewing a defendant. They'll come back and ask him or her the same question over and over again in the hopes that they get a different version, an inconsistent statement of as far as answers go to that question. And that's what's happening here. If you're telling the truth, your story shouldn't change. It should stay the same. But when you've got variations, that's an indication that this person is lying. I can definitely tell you that it helps the defense. I mean, the way he answered it and the smile, even he wasn't convinced with his own answer when he said, yeah, it felt safer in jail. It's the opposite. Snitches generally, or anybody who comes forward in cases like this, don't necessarily feel that safe in jails. And he knows that. And it wasn't convincing to me at all. And I'm sure the jury could see that. The way he said it, it just came across as he himself wouldn't buy that argument. And that's not good enough. He had to have something better. I don't know if there's some kind of initiative the defense is going to bring out later on between the two men. And at this point, now that he's already, facing life, he's got nothing to lose. Why not point the finger at someone else and get them in trouble? Again, there could be all sorts of motives here that we don't know of, and we'll find out later in this case.
We certainly will. Thank you so much. All right. Okay, so still with us, we have criminal defense attorney Lara Yeretsian joining us again. So obviously there's this ongoing issue of Lori's mental health, whether she's going to be competent to stand trial. The defense essentially arguing, well, you can't just keep my client locked up while you figure out if she's competent or not to stand trial and just kind of leave him hanging. It seems like a pretty compelling argument. What do you think?
I agree. He's got speedy trial rights and a right to a fair trial, and the idea that he has to sit and wait for her to be competent is at some point becomes ridiculous, because we have no idea when she's going to be competent, if ever. I mean, there are cases where for years defendants stay in that incompetent state, and the idea that a co-defendant would have to wait for the competency of the co-defendant is just not right. And again, they've got speedy trial rights. They have to get their trial within a certain number of days, and he's entitled to that speedy trial right.
Yeah, and so that's obviously the basis of their argument to sever these cases, but the prosecutors are making a pretty good argument to join the cases, because they say, well, there's a conspiracy charge and it's more efficient, judicial economy. So I don't know. I mean, where do you think that the decision is going to fall?
I think it's a balancing act, having a defendant wait for a long time period to get his day in court versus efficiency. Depending on what reports they get as far as Lori Vallow's competency, my gut is that the judge is probably going to sever the trial, especially if the information that he gets is that it's going to take a while. Or it's not clear when she's going to gain her competency again. So then I think he's going to rule in the favor of defense.
Interesting. And then if they do sever, does that help Chad? Does that help Lori?
It definitely helps Chad. The last thing Chad wants is to be in the same courtroom, in the same room as Lori Vallow, because she has a lot of issues, and it's a lot better for him to be distant from her, because she's the main, I mean, she's been seen as the main culprit. She's the mom. She's got the mental health issues. And the more he can distance himself from her, the better it is for him.
All right. Lara Yeretsian joining us for analysis tonight. Thank you so much.